here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with Barry J to talk about his career and his latest movie, The Way Out. How you doing, Barry?
I'm great. How are you, Adam?
Doing good. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for
Before we get to The Way Out, because I know that's the big new thing, I always like to ask creative people to go back to the beginning and kind of what sparked your interest, and then what was that first big step to making it more than like a hobby or a passion?
Okay, so good question. In 1983, living in New York, I moved to California to be a writer. So it was my first love. I was writing songs and scripts at the time, with writing partners or anything, just on my own. And I tried to make a life out of it. I was too much of a drug addict to make a life out of anything. So it didn't work. Eventually, I did get cleaned up and in shape. And I got in very good shape, as a matter of fact. And I loved it to the point of where when I got fired from my regular day job, I took a job at a fitness studio and I was able to take classes for free. And I fell in love with classes. And then I started teaching there. And then when that place closed suddenly, two of the people in my class were like, let's open something together. You're super consistent. You have full classes. And I was like, okay. And I had the idea. I knew what I wanted to do for Barry's for the workout. It was just, for me, there was a gap. There was a void. Something was missing and I wanted to fill it. And then, Barry's grew and grew and grew, thank God. And I'm blessed. And along the way, I was like, so what do I do now? I teach in the mornings and night, and I have this daytime free. And I said, wow, I could go back to writing again. And it is a different experience sober. Very different. So I went back to some songwriting first. And then I was like, these demos that I'm doing are costly. You can't do a demo for cheap.
Yeah.
You could do a guitar vocal, but if you want a production at all, it starts adding up. So I thought, why don't I just sit down and go back to script writing, because I could write as many scripts as I want, cost nothing. Lo and behold, that would not be true later down the road. So I started writing, and one of my friends in my classes, Ben Jehoshua, he's in the biz. And I said, would you read some of my scripts? And just like two or three of them. I mean, he's that good of a friend where I couldn't just beg for one. I was just like, I'll give you two or three and tell me if I've got anything going here. And he said, yeah, I was actually really into it. Why don't we write one together? Because I've got a friend, Joe Dane, who's starting this thing called Terror Films. And he's got a slate of 3 movies. And maybe we can be one of them. And that was The Chosen. And that was like 2015. And just for the timeline factor, I retired in 2018. And that's when I made my next one. So that's in 2017, I made Ashes. No, I retired and I made Ashes on my own. That was my film school. And then came Killer Therapy. And then now here we are at The Way Out. So it all started just with a friend at Barry's. Terror Films bought the script. And then they hired me to write the wraparound for Patient 7. And now I felt like, you know what? In all those years of songwriting and all the years of script writing, I'm going to gravitate towards what seems to be, organically happening. Like I feel like the universe, God, whatever it is trying to say, go this way, and I was like, okay. I mean, I love it. It's not like I was settling for anything. I absolutely love it.
Right.
But it was just a sign that this is what I want to do, and this is what I should be doing, and don't go chasing the songs anymore, because that's a different thing. So, and then here we are.
So you've done kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I've had a lot of everything. I was a PR management person for 6 years before I got fired. But thank God, that was one of the darkest days of my life. And I got fired because I hated it, and I was there for 6 years. I absolutely hated it. I don't know how people
came through in your attitude, where they're like, "Look, you don't want to be here. We don't want you to be here. Just go.
Just go. We love you. You love us, but you hate this. Go." And they were lovely, and they gave me a lovely severance, and but somewhere inside me, even though I hated it, I thought I'd be doing it the rest of my life, and I had no plan B.
Mm-hmm.
I took the job at the fitness studio for $8 an hour. It was life-changing. It not only opened the doors to my fitness career, but it literally led me to everybody I started working with in the movies.
That's awesome. And it's cool because that kind of passion, like fitness or a sport or anything of that endeavor that takes such determination and like, mental toughness and all that. Like you said, it was $8 an hour. It doesn't pay. You have to want it.
I have to want it.
Like if you only went there because you wanted to open a gym, because you wanted to franchise a gym, it probably wouldn't have worked.
No, no, it was very Forrest Gump feather,
Yeah.
We kind of went with what was happening. And I do stress to anyone, look, I know we all have to pay our bills, but if I had said no because it was $8 an hour, my whole life would be different right now.
Yeah,
So
you probably would have got another PR job that maybe you talk yourself into it for a little bit. Like this one will be different, and you would have hated it 6 months later.
yeah. And you know, all I knew is that I loved to work out. That's all I knew. And I was like, oh, I could take classes for free. Well, that sounds fun. So I just went with what just felt right. And something I loved, something that felt good. And it was also kind of not that fitness is mindless, but I was working the front desk. And it was mindless in the sense of it's not PR. I don't have deadlines and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah, super high stress.
yeah, super stressed, working through lunch, working late. It was sort of like you're checking people in. The people are super nice.
Yeah, they all want to be there.
They all want to be there. They're all working out. They all want to talk after. It's like, this is so nice.
Yeah.
Great. And that's actually how I met my business partners to open up Barry's. Where they were just two people in that fitness studio who took my classes and other classes. So
That's awesome. So when you said a little bit ago that you retired, you retire from
from Barry's.
fitness thing? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, in 2018, after 20 years, and remember I was teaching before Barry's opened. That's how I got my start, the fitness studio and Gold's and Crunch and all that kind of stuff. I was an aerobics instructor. So I didn't have the means to open it, but they did. But that was a long time to teach. And I just thought, I'm 55, it's 2018, it's been like almost 30 years of doing this. I want to do something else. I want to do that. I want to do more. There's more I want to do while I'm given the gift of days being able to do it.
For sure. Yeah. It just seemed like retired is kind of almost the wrong word.
Yes, it's not very retired. 16-hour days doesn't feel retired.
Right. Not only you're making movies, which is a lot of work, you're making indie movies where you're wearing every hat.
Oh, so many hats. I needed like 3 more heads. I have so many hats. But it was nurturing and fulfilling and inspiring. It didn't drain me. The 16 hours on the set never drained me. The set is my happy place. The set is my Disneyland.
Mhm.
It's my favorite parts of the entire process is being on set every day.
It is amazing how easy hard work becomes when you are loving it.
Uh-huh. Totally. It's not work at all if you love it,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was totally fine in the 16th hour,
Did to rewind a little bit, I'm kind of all over the place. Did you ever have anything happen with the music?
I had a couple of things, nothing major. I had a song in Ugly Betty. I had a 1990 or 91 #1 hit on the Christian charts with a song called I Will Stand By You by a group called Rachel Rachel. And if you go to YouTube, it's there. And the lead singer is someone I worked with at the PR firm until she got into the rock band, and we wrote the song together. And it was a good song. But then other stuff, I've stuck songs in my movies to save money because they're indie.
Mm-hmm.
And not front and center, they're like in the back. Well, Ashes, I wrote the end theme song because I just wanted to have fun. It was my first movie. But generally they're like background noise, in a club or something. So that's about it. Oh, there was a Susan Day TV movie I had the song in. I can't forget that. But no,
Cool. You did it.
success. I got some, awards at, songwriting contests and stuff like that. And they are decent, but the decent ones I wrote are after I got sober and I was already in my 40s. And I went to Nashville. I co-wrote with a lot of great writers, Jeff Silbar, who wrote The Wind Beneath My Wings, and a bunch of others. I had great writing partners, some really excellent songs, but I learned pretty quickly if you don't live in Nashville, you won't make it in Nashville. And I had to ask myself, is that really what I want? Enough to keep doing demos and pitching and to make a move to Nashville. I love Nashville, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that felt like what I wanted.
Mhm.
So I just stopped writing. And I just said, you know what, if I'm not going to be in Nashville, they're very country pop, mostly country. Um, I just set it to the side for now. If it comes back up organically one day, great. That's my keyboard back there. I barely touch it.
Yeah, that's cool though. That it's more experience, it's more creative endeavors you got to pursue, even if you realize it wasn't the one.
Yeah, and working with others,
Yeah,
and
that's through the collaborating.
yes, collaborating, being flexible, being open-minded, seeing where my idea isn't the best, is it helps with humility and grace, and that's important. Mike Manning was my drill instructor for the way out, and it was all about. I show up really defensive, which I'm not proud of, but I'm not going to lie. I'm like, no, I love that. No, I love that. But then I can be worn down if I sense somebody is the right person to listen to, and Mike is. Um, I allowed myself to just drop it, just let it go. This guy's on the same team as me, and he's trying to lead me down to the best script possible, and I trust him.
Yeah, that's interesting too. I also thought it was interesting when you said that it was after you got sober that your writing got a lot better because I wanted to ask and I was trying to phrase it without being indelicate about sobriety and all that stuff. Um, did you have to kind of relearn those skills? Because I have heard people on they thought it was going to be the other way, whether it was or wasn't is their own personal thing. But I've heard of people who were like, say, a comedian, but had like an issue with pills or something and was almost afraid to go sober. It's like I won't be funny anymore.
Hmm. I get that, especially for comedians. Um, well, fortunately, I started songwriting back in New York before I touched a single drug.
Okay.
Those were my first two songs, and then I moved to LA, and the drugs happened fast. It's so funny because when I moved out there, everyone was going, "Don't you fall into drugs? There's a lot of drugs in LA," and I was like, "Oh, I never touched any." So I was like, "Oh, don't worry, you're worried over nothing." Literally, it was a month.
Wow.
And it just came on. I had never drank, never used, and all of a sudden it was my daily. But that being said, the songs were still not bad. They were actually getting. That's what kept me going. Is people kept saying, "Oh my God, your melodies are beautiful," and so little things like that kept me going. But I know the difference. They are stronger and cleaner and direct. The melodies are even better. I don't know. When I got sober, it just came back to me. It felt very natural. Now I've heard, and I maybe I'm living proof. When you get sober, like it's almost like I've been all those years pouring salt on my lawn, and now I've stopped, and the lawn can grow again. All
Okay.
the passions, that I used to have that had died for so long, suddenly started coming back. At the time, I was given a baby grand piano by a dear, dear friend for my 40th birthday, which I had not touched. And I got sober at 41. So after I got sober, I kind of sat down at it and I was just like, I like this again.
Yeah. That's a great gift too.
It's a beautiful gift. It was definitely a rebuild, but still a beautiful gift. At my birthday, she gave me a little piano, and
Mhm.
she's just so you know, this is not the size of your real gift. And I started crying.
Oh yeah.
Nancy Severinsen, who ended up being the music super on the way out. She's
Oh,
a
very cool.
friend of over 20 years.
Yeah, you keep your connections close. It's good.
Oh, I love her. She's amazing. And she was a lifesaver. Just a lifesaver because I had not worked with the music super for the first two films because it was so indie and I was trying to save so much money.
Mhm.
This one I was just like, no, everyone was telling me to level up, level up. I was like, well, if I'm leveling up, I need Nancy. So and she comes right on board. She's the most supportive person in the world. I cannot say enough good things about her. And her niece Blair, um, ended up singing most of my demos in my sobriety. Phenomenal voice, like crazy voice.
That's awesome. Good people to know.
Yeah. So, you just kind of like put things out there and your world sort of builds around you. And I just feel really blessed to have been led to just the right people for me.
Yeah, even the short time we've been talking, I kind of get this vibe where you have an interest in something, you're pursuing it. Like
Yeah.
that's what you do. And I think other people probably pick that up too, is where they're like, oh, this guy's the real deal, whether they consciously know it or not.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope at least with my success from Barry's that, and from what I've done so far with movies, that they know hard work doesn't scare me, and I'll go until it's something huge. I won't stop until it's huge.
Well, yeah, you liked working out, and then you had a 60+ worldwide franchise. So I think if that doesn't explain it, nothing does.
Well, but those passions start out with a lot of hard work. Those it's actually over 90 now locations
Wow.
worldwide. I gotta update my bio. But it started out with one, and started out with me teaching 40 classes a week and making $200 a week. It's glamorous now, and thank God, and I love it, and my life is amazing because of it. But you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be in there where it's not money, and it's not, it's not glorious at all. It's just sweating 7 times a day.
Right, for peanuts.
Literally 7 days a week, and working out with the classes and being ripped, sure. but
exhausted.
I was a very tired person.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
But I don't regret it a minute of it. I really, really, really don't. I grew up in those rooms with Barry's.
That's awesome. One more quick thing before we get to the way out properly. You did a Star Wars fan film. I mean, I have to ask.
Okay. Not that I did not notice. I did. So I'm a junkie too. I don't know. You can't see it from here. My Yoda lamp and my sideshow of Obi-Wan sits on my nightstand.
Awesome.
Yeah. I've seen them all countless times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just countless. So my husband has a friend named Dark, and he had a script, and with no offense, it had good roots, but it needed a lot of work. So the two of us said we'd help him work on it. And then he needed somebody for one of the roles, and my friend Casey, who was in The Chosen, I suggested him for it and said he's a diehard Star Wars fan like us, and he will breathe life into your Jedi. So I've not really seen it since then. Dark and his husband Gary moved away. I forget what city, but like Middle America somewhere. And we've sort of lost touch. And they sort of went to after the script was done, he sort of went into a black hole and made it on his own. I had nothing to do with the production of it except for like donating to his Indiegogo.
Okay.
So, but the script is the script was definitely a joint effort.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Thanks. He changed a lot of the script after we gave it to him for shooting purposes, which always happens when you shoot. I mean, I change as I'm shooting.
Especially, I'm sure, with like a micro budget movie like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. But, I thought, because that's what Dark does is VFX.
Oh, okay.
I thought, and I love his name. I just thought it looked really good for the amount he had. I thought the VFX was really good. He put his talents to good use.
It's a good way to save money too.
Tell me about it. I wish I was a makeup artist. I wish I was a casting.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. Gotta learn some more skills now. Now that we're retired.
So that's good. Hopefully I can save that in the future.
Okay, so The Way Out.
Sure.
Very, very good. I really liked it. I'll just put that out front. It seemed, or it felt very like kind of autobiographical in a lot of ways, but then also like taking things to extremes. I'm sure not all of it was autobiographical, or I would hope not.
No, all of it was not. So the part that was autobiographical is the lead, Alex.
Okay,
Alex,
that's what I felt. Yeah.
Alex struggling with sobriety and songwriting and being shut down and fearful and shut down in terms of intimacy and connections with other guys and not knowing how to act or what to say and no self-esteem. I would say I had low self-esteem, but I had no self-esteem. Um, and then Shane was the escapism of the movie. Shane was that guy in my head as a kid that I wished were there next to me to get the bullies to say, if Shane were here right now, you'd be sorry.
Yeah.
So he lived in my head in some way, shape, or form as a kid, and I sort of developed him for the script. Like I just gave him some life. I wanted it to be like Fight Club, but I did not want it to be that he didn't exist.
Yeah, as I was watching it, I thought that same thing. Fight Club actually didn't come to mind, but the very same thing of like, with like 2 pages changed, Shane is an alter ego.
Absolutely. You sort of know something's wrong with him right away. Something's
Yeah.
but it's hard to say what it is exactly. And when we find out exactly what inspires him to do exactly what he does, I think it helps send the message of what I want to send is like the abusers, one turned violent and one got shut down,
Yeah, the 2 extremes.
2 extremes of being abused.
Yeah, it was very interesting and really well done. And I kind of loved that he was real, but he also could have maybe not been.
Mike is brilliant. Mike brought so much realness to him. I mean, he functioned, and we've talked through the character a lot, from a place of being an abused kid grown up, and it just led him down a dark path. He's not a bad person. He's just a messed up person. No, clearly he goes to the extreme, which is not okay. It's not a solution, but it became his solution. And the only way he was able to cope with what had happened.
Yeah, I also thought the actor did a great job because while he's, I guess, the bad guy, for lack of a better word, for a movie, and what he's doing, you're like, okay, I understand the reasoning, even if I'm not on board with it. But he's still kind of like, you still want to hear what he has to say.
Absolutely. That's what I love about Shane. And I'll tell you the story of how I cast Mike if you want to hear it. But
yeah.
He was going to be an executive producer, and Carl brought me to Nick and Mike. He was just going to produce it. He had read the script, but then he got busy, as Mike does, and he went off to do some other things and said, I'll circle back. And I was working on, crafting the script and honing it and tweaking it. And then one day on Zoom with Nick, I said, has Mike ever mentioned wanting to be Shane? And he said, no, but I mean, I can ask him if you want me to. I said, yeah. A completely different Shane than when I'm writing in my head. It was like the scary Ryan Reynolds in Amityville.
Okay.
That's
a lot darker then.
Right. But when I met Mike and everything, I thought, no, this is a relatable boy next door who's got a deep soul and a lot of wisdom and a bad temper, So I do love, so Mike was all into it, and he put on 13 pounds of muscle for the role. He learned how to actually box really good, by the way, for the role. He when he's all in, I got to tell you, he inspires me. He was my drill instructor, and whether he knows it or not, he was sort of like a little mentor on the side. And he was just amazing to work with. And I love what he did for Shane, because Shane does have some things he says to Alex that are spot on. He's not wrong.
Yeah.
It's like he's got some real wisdom to impart. You just, realize how far he takes it.
It was such a nice balance, because it really felt at times where you want to listen to him like, oh, he is helping Alex. Maybe he's got other motives, but he's genuinely helping this person. But then it's like, well, is he? Like the very next scene, it's like maybe not so much.
He thinks he is.
Yes.
he has his own sometimes aggressive way of going about trying to get somebody on their team,
Hmm.
um, to push him. I think there's times when he's trying to push his buttons. There's time when he's trying to just wake him up and shake him up. And I love Shane. He's such a multi-dimensional character. Now I love Alex too, but Alex feels to me, like this young. When I started getting into shape, I was Alex's age, so it was just this young drug addict wanting to be sober, wanting to get in shape, wanting to come out of his shell, wanting to have enough self-esteem to push a song, you know. And there was Shane willing to help.
Yeah, just maybe not exactly in the way, but
No,
almost not in the exact way that Alex needs it. Well, I guess it's kind of spoilers for people listening who haven't seen it yet. Alex gets something out of it. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Alex does get something out of it. And that's the whole thing, because Shane does come from a place of damage and not evil. He's
Mhm.
not evil. That Alex actually did learn a lot from the better part of Shane.
Yeah, and I guess he probably also learned the unintended lesson, which is probably exactly what you meant as it's clicking to me. You're like, well, yeah, that was the point of I gotta get a handle on this thing, otherwise it can go to that place.
Absolutely. What happened to him could happen to me. You
Yeah.
know, happen to anyone if we don't get a handle on it. That's not the road I want to go down. Is Alex was thinking, and he had to do something. But I mean, I just Shane is the ultimate. Take what you need and leave the rest. Just
Mhm.
and I think that's ultimately what Alex did at the very end. I don't think it's like he forgot Shane. He just learned from him and kept what was good and recovered from what was not.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. As you're writing that, I mean, I'm sure you have a lot in your head, but was there a lot more written about Shane's exact past, his exact background, where he was coming from?
Oh yes, and I don't want to give it away, um, but it's the same thing that happened to Alex by the same person.
Okay.
So
I didn't pick up on that if it was in there.
yes, at the very very end, when he's got him pinned, in the garage fight,
Okay. All
he
right.
he says it in a heated moment during the garage fight. So
Oh, I must have. Oh, wow. I went right over it.
yeah, so it's definitely in there, and that's why Alex has a place in his heart he doesn't usually make for anyone,
Hmm.
you know. So Alex gets a pass. Alex gets to come on. I want to make you into me. I'll show you how to turn your life around.
Okay. Yeah. That answers a big one where I was like, well, why? And I don't want to say it out loud because it gives away like the whole plot point of the movie. But that answers a huge hole in my head, not hole in the movie. So that's great.
Gotcha. Oh, I'm
You
glad.
probably know exactly what I'm getting at.
Yes,
And that was
absolutely.
the talking in code thing that people love hearing in interviews.
I know, right? Go watch the movie.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as the characters' backgrounds and that, was there a lot more in the script that as you were shooting it, you were like, well, yes, it fills it out, but we kind of have what we need, so we don't need to show it verbatim.
Yes, yes. I can actually tell you there were very specific scenes of flashbacks of a lot of the abuse, and I was realizing I kept one that I felt was important to relay the horror of it.
Hmm.
But the others were just different parts of that same scene. I was like, you know what? It's just interrupting today's story. And so I just got rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
didn't feel lacking. I thought going into it there's going to be a lot more of that, and it, it's important that that stuff is in movies to make it real and grounded, and for people like you to tell your story. Um, but at times it is difficult to digest it all as an audience member, and I know that's the point. It's not supposed to be
right,
campy.
very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
But yeah, but also you don't have to you can get your point across without having to flash back and show everything, you know?
yeah, yeah. You don't have to hammer it in so hard.
I think the one quick 2-second shot we got is disturbing enough for me.
Yeah, yeah. It was a nice balance for people listening who haven't seen it, if you're afraid that it's going to be too heavy, I would say it's not. I would say you get just enough, and then you also get some more of the more extreme side that while it is brutal, it's movie brutal. So it can kind of take you out of the real brutal.
Yes, yes. It's it's got the horror element. I
Yes,
think
yeah, there you go.
it's a horror movie. We call it a revenge thriller.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So that's what we've sort of dubbed it.
And it might not be the exact kind of movie that speaks to a sequel, but there was something at the very, very end that it seems like you could follow a different character than Alex in another direction. Is there any plan for that?
So I definitely wanted to leave it open. I love Shane that much as a character that I wanted him to have possibilities in the future. It's really funny. I have no TV connections at all, and there's no discussion going on. But I thought, what an interesting Riverdale type TV show this would be, focusing on Shane continuing on, and even Alex and Gracie and the drama of their friendship and getting back and staying sober and coming out of your shell with relationships. And I thought, wow, there could be like a twofold story here if we just kept following it.
That would be really interesting because in so many ways it's the same story, and in so many ways it's a radically different story.
Yes. Yeah, like they're completely separate lives now, but they're going on differently.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught this. He says the name of a girl at the end, and that's the name of the girl he was with in the middle. So
Okay.
also that, clearly they're a team of sorts. She
Okay,
said
they're a team. He didn't just get the information. They're a team.
she's like, oh, Shane, this guy showed up on the list. I was like, okay, I'll
Yeah,
take
so she's basically doing the same thing he is, but he's following through.
it. Right.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Now you got even like a Bonnie and Clyde kind of element.
Totally. So that is like a little hope in the back of my mind because it keeps gnawing at me, like that could be something cool. And it would definitely be in the like a Riverdale or Wednesday kind of feel.
Yeah. Yeah, a bit darker than Wednesday, probably.
Yeah, a little bit darker than Wednesday.
Kind of like Wednesday meets Dexter.
Wexter.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect name. Well, that's awesome. Where are people going to be able to see it? It comes out February 10th. Is that right?
Comes out 10th on streaming platforms. I wish I could tell you exactly which ones, but let's just say all the major platforms like
You'll be
Amazon.
able to find it.
Yeah, you'll find it, iTunes and Apple, and it'll definitely be there.
Very cool. And is there anything else you wanted to point people to? Social media, websites, whatever?
If I'm only on Instagram, and if anybody cares, I mean, I just post like quotes of the day, but if anybody cares, it's at Barry Scares, and that's it. And that's the only social media I have. But it was great to work with Sherry Shepard. It was great to work with Ashley Murray and Johnny Beauchamp. I know I didn't talk about them much, but they were, to me, the dream cast. Also, Mitch Silpa. So fortunate to get Mitch Silpa. And you know him from Bridesmaids as Stove, not Steve. But he was Dale, and he crushed it. That's like one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
It was a really strong cast because I'm watching it, and the only thing that reminds you that it's like an indie movie screener is there's a time ticker on the bottom.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you. That's really important to me to know that I love indie filmmaking, but I am trying to make it look like I have more than I spend,
Yeah, I'm not trying to disparage anyone's work, but there are things that you pick up on where, like a big thing is the audio. A lot of times it sounds hollow, and your audio it's there, it's dialed in, it sounds great. They're clear, they're present, they're in the room with you. So little things like that add up to a lot.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, but they all brought 110%. I mean, I felt so fortunate to have this cast. They also went together very well, those four,
Yeah, Alex and his friend group, you believe the friendships, and then you kind of believe their own offshoot stories.
Yeah, they're friends in real life. They met on Katie Keene, the spinoff of Riverdale, and they became friends. It was because of Ashley that Johnny got the script and demanded demanded to meet me on Zoom that day.
Oh, awesome.
And I knew right away. I was like, this is the guy. He found us.
Yeah, that's cool too that they were real friends because that comes across.
Yes, and it does come across. And I knew that energy would be a bonus, a really added bonus. And they were great on set together. They worked things out together. They talked through scenes together, and it was just awesome.
For sure, 'cause you get that movie making kind of shorthand where you don't need a 20-minute exposition scene about how they met and how they're friends and this and that. Like they're there.
There, it's like stuff like laying on the couch together is something that they just did. Now it's
Mhm.
like, oh, I love it. It's like, oh yeah, we're just laying on the couch together. So, and they're as nice as can be. I cannot say enough good things about just, and this is important to me. Kindness is so important. They are just every day. I look forward to seeing them
That's great too.
every single day. I could not wait to see them.
That's awesome. So not only you're chasing your passion, you're writing your script, you're doing what you want. And like you said, 16-hour days didn't feel like work, but you're also doing it with other people who feel the same way.
But passionate and excited, and everyone was so supportive of the movie itself, and they knew it was indie. And even Sherry was like, "This thing's got layers, You've got." That's why I said yes. There's something here. And I was honored that she said yes. I mean, I loved her in Precious as Cornrows, and that's what I held on to as far as knowing she could pull it out. She could do it. But I also loved her as Angie Jordan, not 30 Rock. So when Carl Rumba, one of the producers, said, I can get it to Sherry Shepherd and see if she likes it. And then she did. I was like, we got Sherry Shepherd. I was kind of a kid in the candy store and still am about it. So, and yeah, so just very lucky. That's all I've got is just a blessed cast, an amazing DP. Dominic Savilli, a director, is only as good as his DP, and he is a magician.
Yeah, it was shock rate too. The audio mix was really good. It was shock rate too.
Yeah. It shot beautifully. We were such a good team. The way we collaborated and came up with some fun shots. We also did the shot list like a day before, and we did a lot of them flying by the seat of our pants, just winging it. So we worked in the same way. I don't know a lot of DPs that would want to just go in there and just think of shots as they're going. But sometimes with the new environment, you just see the set for the first time, and you're like, oh, we could do this. We have that. I want to use that window. So yeah. So you just
Well, that's probably something great that you look for in a DP is if someone came in and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. You're like, but you're the one who's supposed to make it look away. Like you have to know.
Yes, Dom was never at a loss, and I wanted a lot of handheld, and he was amazing with handheld. I wanted it because handheld makes it feel a little unstable, like Alex.
Mm-hmm.
So
more intimate too.
Yeah, I wanted it to help tell the story, and Dom was brilliant with it because it was funny because sometimes he'd be like, "What's up next? Handheld." I'm like, things I love that he knew were coming. Is like, you want a oneer, don't you? And for those who don't know, that means that's one long shot. And I'd be like, yeah, start in the middle, over here, come to the door. It's like, I gotcha. But that's great. You could just say what you want. And Dom knows how to make it, not only knows how to do it, but he knows how to make it look amazing. And he's able to do it. It's one thing to say I want a wonder. It's another thing for somebody else to say, okay, I'll make it happen.
Yeah.
It's two different things. Easy to say. Not easy. So yeah, I would love to work with him again and again and again.
That's awesome. Well, Barry, thank you for taking the time to come on. That was great. The movie's good for anyone listening. February 10th, The Way Out. Find it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Keep our name, and when you get your next thing coming, we'll do it again.
I would love that. Really appreciate it. Take care.
I'd like to thank Barry one more time for taking time out of his busy life to come on and talk to us about his past movie making, getting into it, pouring himself into The Way Out. It's so awesome to see a creative person pour themselves into their art and have that art turn out to be really awesome. Maybe awesome's the wrong word given some of the subject matter, but it's a very well-made movie. You should definitely check out The Way Out, February 10th on whatever major streaming platform you like to use. We have a lot more interviews, new movie coverage, screener coverage, Amazon series coverage, comic coverage, trailer reactions, all that stuff you love coming your way. So like, subscribe, bell, do all the things. Make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, videos, merchandise, and more. We love hearing feedback, so drop us in the comments. Leave us something on social media. All the accounts will be found after the show and in the show notes. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as just $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows, audio and video. And on a personal note, a good friend and I have an ongoing comedy comic series. It's called Social Studies. It's a slice of life coming-of-age story about a group of friends dealing with all the insanity that comes with high school. To put it the simplest way I can, we had a Nicktoon to do from scratch, our own. It's Social Studies. Check it out on socialstudiescomic.com, Global Comics, and on Comixology. New issues are on the way, so get on it. Thanks.